Welcome to The Whole Story. I'm Anderson Cooper. It's been 6 months to the day since Hamas launched the October 7th attack on Israel. More than 1,200 Israelis were killed that day and about 250 people were taken hostage. The attack triggered an Israeli bombing campaign and ground invasion in Gaza, which of course continues even now. More than 33,000 Palestinians have been killed since then, according to the Hamas-run Gazan Health Ministry. With the two sides at war, negotiations for the release of the Israeli hostages has been an uphill battle. More than 100 captives have been freed so far, but Israel believes that around 130 people are still being held in Gaza. Over the past 6 months, we've spent time with 4 families in Israel, all of them still waiting for at least one family member to return. Some have been fortunate enough to see some of their loved ones freed, but those former captives are still struggling to adapt to their new realities. CNN's Biana Golodriga brings you their stories.
This is Omer's room. Every morning I'm getting into his room. I'm telling him good morning. And I'm praying. He left the room like this. When he will come back, I will give him a big hug. And then I will kick his ass and I will tell him, go to arrange your room.
"21-year-old Omer Shem Tov is the youngest of Shelley and Malki Shem Tov's 3 children.
Omer is very social. Everybody love him. He likes very much music. He loved the life. There are videos that Dana did that you could see is full of joy, full of joy.
Is it true he wanted to be a DJ?
Yes, and he likes very much all these kind of festivals. Every Saturday, Friday, he go to all kind of music parties and festivals.
That Saturday, October 7th, Omer was at the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel with his good friend Maya Regev. And her 18-year-old brother, Itai Regev. The music suddenly stopped. After sirens were heard and rockets were seen launched from Gaza. Omer, seen here in the yellow shirt with Maya and Itai behind him, was heading out as missiles exploded in the distance. It was one of more than a dozen locations in southern Israel attacked by Hamas terrorists 6 months ago, killing more than 1,200 Israelis and triggering the war that would eventually devastate Gaza and claim tens of thousands of Palestinian lives.
We've got more new video coming in showing the carnage after Hamas militants raided a peaceful music festival in southern Israel near Gaza.
We are used to all this kind of siren, but this time I called him immediately because I knew that he's in the south. He told me that they hear the siren as well and they see the rockets. He told me that he's going to look for a shelter or a place where to hide. And then I called him again, he called me again. He was running and he sounded very panicked and hysteric.
So did Maya. Just before 9 a.m., while trying to drive off the grounds with Omer, Itai, and another friend, she made this call to her dad. Maya was unable to send their location, but Omer sent it to his family.
And on the live location, we saw that the point is not moving to the right place.
Where was it moving?
To the border. And my daughter started to cry. She said, something is wrong. I tried to call him again. The phone was ringing, but he didn't answer. 8 p.m., I got a phone call from one of his friends. He told me, Shelly, I'm sorry. I need to send you a Telegram video that Hamas posted. Then I saw on the video, Omer is in the floor of a pickup truck, handcuffed.
That's Itai Regev next to him. Maya Regev was put up front. When Shelly got the call, her husband Malki was at a hospital looking for his son.
Shelly told me that this video was published by the Hamas. I got it, and then it's like someone threw a very big, thick, black curtain on your face. I drove back home here, and there were already friends over here. They all were crying, panic, and we hug each other, and the first words that we say, we are going to do everything to bring Omer back. Let's bring Omer back home.
Omer was one of more than 250 men, women, and children kidnapped that day. Among the hostages, 19-year-old Nama Levy, taken from where she was staying at Kibbutz Nahal Oz.
So this is Nama's room? Yes. Waiting for her.
Like Omer Shem Tov, Nama is a young adult. But inside her bedroom,
It's a girl's room.
it's clear she's still more young than adult.
And these squishies, these were hers? Yeah, this. She likes this pink one is her favorite. Nama is an athlete, and she was in triathlon for a while and then played tennis. Always just wanting to do good and to make the world a better place.
If you don't know Nama's name, by now you have likely seen the disturbing video of her kidnapping.
Nama's father called me to let me know there's a video of Nama being dragged out of a Jeep in Gaza. And I remember I stood up and I said, what? What? She's being dragged by her hair out of the trunk of a Jeep. She's handcuffed, barefoot. There's a lot of blood stains. Her pants are stained and then shoved into the back seat.
What did you do then?
I assumed that she would be rescued. I thought, if she's in Gaza, then go get her. We got an official notice of her being kidnapped by Hamas. The following morning, officers came into her house.
Did they offer you any advice, what you should be doing, what they're going to be doing?
Sit tight. We're doing everything we can. But after some time, a week and a half, pretty much, we understood that we needed to do something. We didn't know what, but nothing was being done, or we didn't know of any efforts that were being done to bring them back.
The family of 36-year-old Yarden Roman Gat realized they needed to do something after they stopped getting texts from her.
At 10 a.m. she stopped replying to my messages.
Hour after an hour, not answering us. We are becoming more nervous.
On October 7th, Yarden, her husband Alon, and their 3-year-old daughter Geffen were staying at Yarden's in-laws at Kibbutz Be'eri, 3 miles from the Israel-Gaza border. Rocket sirens are a usual occurrence there.
It was sort of a routine. They started the alarms. Yarden sent us the picture of her with Geffen in the shelter room playing with dolls, and we were just waiting to see that everything is going back to normal.
It never did. Be'eri was being attacked. Hamas terrorists kidnapped Yarden, her husband, and daughter, put them into the back of a stolen vehicle, and drove toward Gaza.
There was this moment that three of the terrorists went out of the car and just the driver started to turn around and to accelerate. This was the only moment that we could seize to jump, so we did it. So Yarden told me, take a Geffen, and I did. And I just ran with her. In that time, they were shooting at us. And I felt the bullets like hitting really close to me, so I just kept running for another 600 feet, and this is where I found a kind of a ditch in the ground. So I put Geffen in and me on her, and I started to camouflage us with some dirt and bushes. And we just stayed there for 8.5 hours, from 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And when it was dark, I took Geffen on my back, and we just walked back to the kibbutz, and we got there the next day.
Just the two of them. Yarden was now missing.
I don't know what's going on. I just hear them smashing my house.
South of Be'eri, Hadass Calderon survived the Hamas attack on kibbutz Nir Oz by barricading herself in her safe room.
I'm in the dark. No water, no food, no nothing. Just me and God and the terrorists. 8 hours, from 6:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock afternoon.
Two of her 4 children, 16-year-old Sahar and 12-year-old Erez, were at their father's home nearby.
The last message I got that they jumped from the window and hiding in the bush. And then we lost the connection.
She later learned they jumped because terrorists were tossing explosives into their home. But they stayed hidden, watching the horror for 2 hours.
And then a young man, like 19 years old, was just jump on the window and make like a gym, you know, like sport. One of
was
the
doing pull-ups.
Yes, something like that. And then he saw them. It's just behind the bush, you know. And then this young boy called the Hamas terrorist. And my Sahar, she couldn't run away because her legs fell asleep. She couldn't move. Erez, he was very clever. He tried to get up to the roof, but then they saw him, they showed the gun, and they said, go out or we shoot.
Sahar, Erez, and their 53-year-old father, Ofer Calderon, were caught.
When I went out, I saw all the burned houses. I was sure they'd been murdered. And then we got the movie.
The movie is this video posted to social media, showing Erez being led away by terrorists.
I realized they kidnapped, and I knew they've been all together, so.
You assumed that Sahar and Ofer were with them.
They are alive. Kidnapped, but alive. Wow, it's a miracle. And I told to myself, you know, if they're alive and just, if they kidnap, I'm going to bring them home. I'm going to bring them home. אסור לשכוח אותם. הם הילדים של כולם. אסור לשכוח אותם.
Frustrated by more than a month of no movement on a hostage deal and thoughts of her kids in dark tunnels, Hadass Calderon decided to make more, louder noise.
Bring them home now! Bring them home now!
She set up a protest site near the Israeli Defense Forces headquarters at a major intersection in Tel Aviv.
I miss them. I miss them so much. I can't stay without them anymore.
By this point,
It's okay. Let's go.
only 4 Israeli hostages had been released, and Palestinians living in that war zone were suffering unimaginable losses.
The Hamas-controlled health ministry says that more than 10,000 people have died in Gaza.
A deal for a temporary ceasefire would help Gazan families made desperate by the Israeli bombing. and it would allow for a substantial number of hostages to safely leave the war zone and return to Israel. But negotiations had been unsuccessful.
The government job is to protect the citizens, to make sure they're safe. They failed in the 7th of October. And now they're failing second time.
אתם מחויבים, מוסרית, מדינית, הכל קרה במשמרת שלכם. האחריות להחזרתם מוטלת עליכם.
After weeks of negotiations, a deal was struck between Israel and Hamas.
Breaking news, as many as 50 Israeli hostages expected to be released in the next several days in exchange for 150 Palestinians and a 4 to 5 day pause in the fighting.
The majority of hostages who would be released in this deal are children.
There is agreement at last, but we still don't have the list for the one who is going to be released. They don't have the list yet. Nobody knows who is going to be released.
They don't know who will be released, but the plan calls for at least 4 days of hostage releases and a pause in fighting, with the possibility to extend the deal.
24 hostages have been released by Hamas terrorists.
Among those released that first day, 13 Israeli women and children, but not Erez and Sahar Calderon.
You know, I almost lost my hope. I was so helpless, really.
Malki and Shelley Shem-Tov knew their 21-year-old son, Omer, would not be freed on that first day of releases.
It's very emotional situation. I'm happy for the families that will see in the few days their love back home. I'm jealous, you know?
On the 50th day of war, as tens of thousands of Israelis gathered near IDF headquarters, a second day of hostage releases got underway. Among the 17 freed that day, a surprise for the Shem-Tovs. Not Omer, but his friend Maya Regev.
It was the happiest day of my life, I think.
She arrived with news for the Shem-Tovs about what happened to their son.
The Nova Festival, we were at the big stage. It was me, Omer, Itai, my brother. Like 9 terrorists started shooting at us, like sprayed us with bullets. One bullet hit my leg, my left leg, and it crushed my bone completely. They tied Itai and Omer and put them in the trunk, and I was inside of the car, sitting between all the terrorists. And then they drove to Gaza.
Maya also told the Shem-Tovs Omer was still alive and not injured.
I had a note from Omer. He wrote me, "Don't worry, it will finish soon, be strong." And I gave them that note, so when they're a little sad or having a hard time, they could look at it.
The third group of hostages released by Hamas is now safe in Israel.
Omer and Itai were not among those freed on day 51, the third day of releases. Neither was Nama Levy, Yarden Roman Gat, or Ofer Calderon. Also missing, the children Ofer had with Hadass Calderon, Sahar, and Erez. Children were supposed to be a priority for these releases.
They must be released. Must. People think I'm strong, I'm not. I'm very weak. I can't live without my children.
Then, Hadass finally got the call.
Yes, Elohim! I got the message. Wow. Wow. I'm shocked. They're coming back. But, you know, till the moment I saw them, I didn't believe. I was sure something going to happen.
So tell me about that moment when you finally saw them.
They come, and Erez with a big smile, like, and Sar, immediately she started to cry. And then I just hugged them and, you know, I cry.
And some more families were about to experience this joy. Over the next few days, there would be more reunions. As Hamas began releasing hostages, Yarden Roman Gat's family members were climbing walls, literally. This was an event to honor Yarden, an avid climber, as well as remind the press, the public, and politicians that Yarden was still being held captive, awaiting release.
Well, today we already know she's not going to be released, so...
The idea was born here. The Roman family home turned into a sort of control room for the efforts to get Yarden back.
Our assumption is that she will hopefully be among the extra ones released.
Breaking news, 12 more hostages are now back here in Israel and heading to Israeli hospitals.
On day 53, when the 4-day hostage deal was extended for at least 2 more days, Yarden was not among the released. But the next day,
it was a really happy moment. We got her into our arms and I hugged her and we talked all night.
It's like the purest joy you can imagine.
yes! We found her, the family is chanting. She became lost following a split-second decision.
I gave Geffen to Alon because he's a fast runner. It was very simple. They were shooting at us.
Yarden gave her daughter to Alon because, with him, Geffen had a better chance to escape.
And I just fled out on the floor. I just played dead. And very quickly they decided I'm not dead. They just dragged me back to the car. I was in my pajamas, barefoot, and everything, my whole underwear and pants just
came off.
Like partly. I was not naked, but partly naked. And I was like, it's like an invite. Fortunately, it didn't go that way. They just put me back to the car. Eventually I got to a house, like civil house. Most of the time I was there.
No other hostages were held with her.
And was someone with you, a terrorist with you, every day?
Every second. All the time.
Recounting her experience is not easy.
It's a very difficult feeling to explain.
Okay, let's stop for a little while, okay? I'm sorry, let's take a break.
What is the meaning of being a hostage? You cannot speak out. There is no certainty. You have to be alert all of the time. It's very deep aspects of humanity that are taken away.
During your time, did you know that there were many others?
I knew. I was exposed to television in some point and to the radio in another point. There was a point they showed me like a picture of Israeli paper with the faces of people captured from Be'eri. Then I got the news that Carmel was also there.
Carmel Gat, her sister-in-law, had also been kidnapped from Be'eri. Kinneret Gat, Yarden's mother-in-law, seen in this October 7th Hamas video, was murdered.
Did you know that Geffen and Alon were safe in Israel at this time?
It took a while, a few weeks, like 3 weeks into captivity.
So that must have been a big relief.
Yeah, it was, but it was also devastating. Everything that is personal that you find out when you're captive, it cracks your shield because you try to keep it together as long as you can. One day before I got back was the first time I saw other hostages. It was a big relief, but it was devastating to hear what they've been through.
Worse than you?
Yes, really. The worst of evil.
Yarden hoped to see her sister-in-law that day, but Carmel Gat never appeared. Someone who did, Itai Regev. Remember, he is the then 18-year-old kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival with his sister Maya and her friend Omer Shem Tov. The siblings spoke soon after the crossing. A short time later,
he hugged me and it was like the best moment.
שבוע לפני שהפרידו אותי ואת עומר, אמרו שילדים חוזרים בעסקה. אני ועומר היינו כמעט בטוחים ב100% שאני לא אחזור, כי אני לא ידעתי שאני נחשב ילד. וגם אמרתי לו שאם במקרה ויקחו אותי, לא הייתי מסכים לצאת משם בלעדיו. ופשוט באו לנו יום אחד ואמרו לנו שאנחנו צריכים להיפרד, ולא אמרו לי שאני חוזר הביתה.
You were so attached to Omer. You couldn't imagine being separated from him.
כן, זה קשר שאני לא יכול להסביר אותו אפילו.
Itai said they barely knew each other before October 7th. Omer was Maya's friend, not Itai's.
ואני פשוט מרגיש שהוא כמו אח שלי הגדול. הייתי מראה לעומר את הקעקוע הזה הרבה.
איתי.
Soon after, when both Regevs were back in Israel, they met with Omer's parents.
We told them everything about what happened since October 7 until the moment that Itai got home, because Itai was with Omer for 52 days.
Such as what Omer was eating or not eating.
Did they give you food? Water?
הביאו לנו מים. הביאו לנו גם אוכל, אבל לא מספיק. לא הגענו שם לשובע.
The siblings also described Omer's living conditions.
How big was the room?
זה היה חדר קטן יחסית. שחצי מהחדר היה מלא בזבל, מלא באבק. ובחצי השני היה את המזרון שלי ואת המזרון של עומר. והיה חדר פשוט מאוד מאוד מסריח. היה לנו שם דלי, ששם היינו עושים את הצרכים שלנו.
Itai also explained the ritual that helped him and Omer stay strong.
You celebrated Shabbat together.
כן, שנינו באים מבית מסורתי. ביום שישי יש קידוש. הגיע לנו מצנבים, הגיע לנו בייגלה, שמשם לקחנו מלח.
They did kiddush and they pray on the bread. And Itai told us that was something that gave them a lot of strength and a lot of power.
I know that Omer knows that we talk to his family, and I think that's the thing that's keeping him alive, that his family knows what's happening, and we're fighting for him.
Bring them home now! Bring them home now! Bring them home now!
Israel and Hamas have agreed to extend their truce for another 24 hours. Israel says Hamas must release 10 hostages a day to keep the guns silent.
Entered its 7th day on November 30th. Less than 24 hours later, negotiations fell apart. The releases stopped and war resumed.
The war is on. Israel bombarding Gaza again, and Hamas once again firing rockets now deep into Israel.
More than 130 hostages still in Gaza, including several women in their 20s and 30s.
Among those left behind, Nama Levy.
People made these for her.
Yeah, we made this with our friends. We missed you. You are our sunshine.
Dr. Ayelet Levy-Shachar didn't get Nama back, but she did learn how her 19-year-old daughter was coping in captivity from released hostages who said they saw her.
From what she told them, she was alone for over 40 days, alone with her captors, moving from one hiding place to the other. She told them that she didn't eat much. They described her injuries. She has a lot of shrapnel wounds. Her legs are very swollen, and she has burns.
Burns
on her legs.
From what?
Probably from a grenade that went off in the attack just before she was kidnapped.
A reminder that this is the extremely unsettling video of Nama's kidnapping.
Was she treated at all?
She received antibiotics for some time, and she told them some of the shrapnels she picked out, she
herself.
Removed herself. Yes.
You're a doctor. When you hear that, how does that make you feel?
You know, I'm worried about the shrapnels that are deeper in, the ones that can enter into her bloodstream and put her life at risk.
And the doctor worries about whether Nama and the other female hostages are suffering abuse.
What is a scientific fact is that the young girls, the women, are most vulnerable for any form of violence, and sexual violence in particular.
Miracles happen to ones who take action.
Nama's mother traveled to New York to fight for her daughter's release and to spread awareness about the suspected abuses.
I thought it was really important to speak to whoever I could in the UN and other places. They were silent. And even when they started to speak or say something, it was very soft and not loud enough, not out there enough.
5 months after the October 7th Hamas attack, following a visit to Israel and the occupied West Bank, a UN representative said this.
We found clear and convincing information that sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, has been committed against captives. And we also have reasonable grounds to believe that such violence may still be ongoing against those still held in captivity.
I worry most that she will despair and that she will stop fighting from inside, stop hoping. And this is what I keep telling her in my mind, don't stop. Just stick in there, hang in there. Don't darken. Keep the hope and keep moving, physically and mentally, keep moving.
Yarden Roman Gott's family is doing yoga moves to keep her sister-in-law's captivity in the spotlight. This weekly event is called Yoga for Carmel. Released hostages say Carmel Gott taught yoga and meditation to 2 young captives to help them get through.
Unbelievable, right? That in the darkest place and the harshest conditions, she was able to find this resilience and tools to cope.
But her family is worried about how long that can continue.
The first worry is the fundamental, dead or alive. The second worry is her soul. We cannot know in what state she is. If she's gonna come back herself. How fractured will she be? What kind of rehabilitation she will need to go through to manage to be in a good place. It's a very profound impact that captivity take on human souls.
That profound impact is ahead.
נכנסנו לתוך עזה, פחד מוות. מי שנמצא בשבי לא יודע שום דבר ממה שקורה בחוץ. זה חוסר אונים.
After being released from Hamas captivity, 16-year-old Sahar Calderon spoke on camera for the first time, telling her story to the New York Times.
אמרו לי שאני חוזרת לישראל שעה לפני. אני הייתי בטוחה שהם משקרים לי, עד שבאו ובאמת לקחו אותי. פגשתי את אח שלי ארז כמה רגעים לפני שהביאו אותנו לצלב האדום. הייתי כל כך שמחה לראות אותו, התחלתי לבכות, ואמרתי לעצמי שלפחות יש לי אותו, כי לא הייתי שום דבר.
Sahar and her younger brother, Erez, spent 52 days in Hamas captivity.
They saw things that children not supposed to see.
How are they doing now?
They were afraid they're going to be kidnapped again. And they were thinking that behind any door there is a terrorist in the house. They don't feel safe. It's like the basic safety of human is gone.
The whole family has been in trauma therapy, and Erez has found comfort in playing the video game Fortnite.
Why do you like to play it?
כי זה כיף.
אמא שלך מרשה לך לשחק הרבה?
כן.
Hadass says the therapists have told her it's okay for him to play, even though the game reminds him of the tunnels in Gaza.
Yeah, that's what he told me. It was like a Fortnite game. I hate this game, you know, but he keep playing it, and I think maybe it's, he's trying to process what's happened to him. It's like, or maybe he's trying to feel powerful.
Sahar has struggled with the absence of their father, Ofer, who remains in captivity.
They're very worried for him, very missing him. They can't see their life without him.
In February, after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissed a new hostage deal, she spoke at a press conference beside 4 other former hostages.
למה אני ילדה בת 16 הייתה צריכה לעבור את כל הסיוט הזה? למה אני הייתי צריכה להיקבר חיה בתוך המקום הזה במשך חודשיים? נכון, אולי אני חיה ונושמת, אבל בנפש נרצחתי, וכל מי שנמצא שם נרצח כל יום מחדש. אתם יודעים מה זה הרגשה שמחבל בועט בך במשך שעות בפרצוף של רצח בעיניים? שאני הייתי צריכה לפחד פחד מוות כי אני בטוחה שהולכים לאנוס אותי? בבקשה מכם, אל תפקירו את אבא שלי ואת כל מי שנמצא שם ותהפכו גם אותם לארון.
I think when their father will come back, it's the best medicine for them. It's a cure.
Omer Shem Tov, friend to Itai and Maya Regev, also remains in captivity.
The hardest part is that we both got kidnapped with Omer, and we are both here, and he's not.
Since returning home, Maya has spent 5 days a week in physical therapy, relearning how to walk. The bone in her left leg had been crushed by a bullet on October 7th. Maya, Itai, and the Shem Tovs have continued their fight to bring Omer home.
We are in the mission of our life now, and we don't see any obstacle. We have a big rally every Saturday.
Every Saturday.
About 50,000 in these rallies. And every week we say, this is the last time.
Bring them home!
Now!
In January, Yarden Roman Gat's older brother spoke outside the UN to mark 100 days of captivity for those still held by Hamas.
We asked Yarden many times, what did they want? Yarden says they repeatedly said just one cause, jihad, a world of jihad, a Muslim empire.
Their aim is to get the world to be Islamic, the whole world.
Yarden understands some Arabic and spoke with her captors in English. She says they said it all the time.
That Israel should not exist at all.
No.
No two states.
Islamic State.
Yeah.
Like a world of Islamic State.
While Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization by the U.S. and the EU, negotiations have been ongoing to get the remaining hostages released.
We need to get to a deal, and I think the way to do that is to put more pressure on Hamas. And even though the United States is doing a lot, and other countries are doing a lot on getting to a deal, somehow it's not enough.
No ceasefire deal meant more days in captivity for the Israeli hostages and devastation for the Palestinians trying to survive inside a war zone.
The Gaza Health Ministry says that the death toll since October the 7th is now more than 29,000.
The UN warning that more than 500,000 people in Gaza are, quote, one step away from famine after nearly 5 months of war.
And at 6 months of war, nearly half of the population of Gaza is at imminent risk of famine. The death toll there is more than 33,000, according to Gazan health officials. And around 130 Israeli hostages are still being held by Hamas, including Maya and Itai Regev's friend, Omer Shem Tov.
I know there are a lot of things that needs to be achieved, and we need to destroy Hamas and all of this, but first I think that we need to put on the top of the list all the hostages. Omer is the most funniest person I know. And he has the biggest heart. And I don't know one person that can say anything bad about him. He's like the most purest thing ever. I'm sorry.
אין יום שאני לא חושב על עומר. אין שעה שעוברת שאומר לו בראש שלי.
Our life stopped at October 7, stopped. And it's a long, long, long nightmare.
I don't think I will ever be the same. In October 7, I got inside Gaza, one Maya, and I came out a different one. The way that I look at the world is different. I know things now that I don't want to know. Why do I need to know about this pure evil there is in my world that I live in? How can I raise my kids? How can I have kids knowing that there are people this evil, that this might happen to them?